Hey, we are here today. We're doing another Drive Time with Hagerty podcast, weekly half-hour podcast. I'm here with my friend Rob. I am Matt Lewis, by the way. I do the social media for Hagerty. I've got Rob Sass on my left.
I'm the publisher of Hagerty Classic Cars magazine.
Excellent. And through the power of the internet, we have Stefan Lombard.
Hello. Greetings from Portland, Oregon.
Much nicer than Traverse City, Michigan, from what I understand.
It is. We have flowers.
And lots of Volvo 240s.
Yes, we do.
Stefan's favorite car. I guess last week we did talk a little bit about Barrett-Jackson, and Stefan, you found a really cool article that was put onto our Facebook page.
Yes.
About the 25 least expensive cars at Barrett.
Yeah, it was on a Canadian website.
Yep. Autofocus.ca hosted.
Yes.
They made it.
And we got huge response to it when I put it on Facebook, because everybody likes a deal,
Right.
and especially people who think there are no deals at Barrett-Jackson and other auctions. So
They've never been there on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Right.
right.
There are deals to be had there, but I think it's really cool that somebody did report on the less expensive stuff, because everything makes the news is $4 million, future liners. But there are some really, really fun cars on this list to choose from.
There are. And the most unconventional of them, I think, you can make an argument between the Puma GT and the Buick Cielo concept car.
Yeah,
which I looked at.
Did you?
Yeah, it was basically some kind of a Regal with a retractable hardtop. That car.
Yeah.
It was an interesting car. Heaven help you if anything that one-off top mechanism ever fails. And it was sold on a bill of sale, which means you're really probably never going to be able to register it for the road. The only hope that car is ever going to see of being on the road is if a dealer bought it and puts a dealer tag on it.
What's really interesting, in my opinion, is we had that big thing 3 or 4 years ago where all these concept cars are drawing huge money that, going to Barrett-Jackson.
Yeah.
And then here we have in the bottom 25 a GM concept car.
True enough. But let's face it, it was not the Buick Y job.
Correct. Yes.
As concept cars go, you would really have to look pretty carefully at that car to realize that it was a concept car, very much like a production Buick, with the added bonus that you'll never actually be able to register it and drive it on the road. But I did look at that Puma GTE.
That is a steal.
When I saw what it sold for, I was really bummed because I might actually have raised my hand for that car.
Yeah,
We should probably talk about what it is. It's essentially a Brazilian Porsche 914. Essentially, it's
all fiberglass, right?
It's all fiberglass.
Yeah.
It is very much kit carish in its appearance, but it's kind of a mashup of a lot of different cars. There's Porsche 911, Porsche 914, Alpine A110, Dino, all sorts of stuff in it. And it actually kind of works. And
it's a good.
It was nice looking.
Price aside, it's really not a bad looking car.
No.
It's very representative of late 70s.
Yes.
Kind of extravagant, I'll say, sports cars.
Yeah. And 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever, when you could say, okay, this or say a Porsche 912e, what would I rather have? It's kind of no contest. You take the actual German Porsche 912e, but the fact of the matter is those cars are $20,000 and up now, and you've got this Puma that's out there, and it makes a lot more sense in light of what air-cooled Porsches have done.
Well, and what are the chances of driving that Puma down the street and seeing another?
Well, outside of Rio de Janeiro, probably a big old zero. But yeah, and it was cool, and not to sound like a Puma geek or anything at this point, but it was an early one, so. Some of the real kind of kit car-ish aspects of the later ones, like the black rubber bumpers and kind of the crummy trim, wasn't really on this car. It was an early one, had some bright work to it that looked like it was actually, kind of bespoke, made for the car. And it was cool. It hammered for like $6,500. So with the buyer's premium, it was what, $7,150?
Yeah, a smoking deal. A couple other things that
they're very. I'm sorry. I was just going to say they're very attractive cars. I'm looking at pictures of some now, and there's actually one that has Fuchs alloys mounted on it,
Oh, jeez.
and it looks really good. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the other notable things, in my opinion, the 72 AMC Commando. It's not the best sport utility kind of a vehicle from its day, but man, for $8,250 out the door, you can have a ton of fun in the summer with that little thing.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to talk about one of the best ice cream getters known to man.
Right.
I mean, that's it. You can fit, a family of 4 or even 5 in it and go to the ice cream stand and everybody's going to give you a thumbs up.
Yeah, and then a Volkswagen Scirocco Custom. Now this,
I didn't see it. Did anyone see that car?
I saw a picture of it online. I didn't see it in person. It may not have been as nice as their glory shots from the website.
How custom was it?
Looked like it had wide body setup on it.
Oh, okay.
So it was definitely lowered. It definitely had a wide body. I'm sure it had been performance hopped up, but it's still a good looking car for under 8.
Seems like kind of the wrong place for something like that, kind of the fish out of water. I mean, resto mods do pretty well at Barrett-Jackson. Water-cooled Volkswagen resto mods, probably not so well.
Yeah, definitely weird.
Yeah.
And then a couple other quick notable ones. An Edsel Ranger, 1959. Really strange little car, but for $6,800,
That seems really, really cheap.
really inexpensive.
I didn't see that one either, but I'm looking at the 66 T-Bird as well. And $7,000 probably gets you a reasonable
Yeah,
66 T-Bird, which I guess would
wasn't a
be
bad little
it's the one
car.
after the Bullet Bird. It's like the
It's a big
Landau
bird,
Bird.
yeah.
But it's not the big one that came after that, right?
Right, no,
It's like the Landau Bird. It's the one that came after the Bullet Bird.
Yeah, it's got the real square back
Yeah.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of style for that kind of money for $7,300.
So
Speaking of a lot of style,
right,
there was a 59 Ranchero Custom,
that was actually nice looking. That was a well
white with a black top, chrome dog dish wheels, $6,800.
Yeah.
Wow.
Something just fun, even if it's never worth $1 million, which it'll never be worth $1 million. But man,
That is a lot of fun and a lot of thumbs up for that kind of money. Wow, that's amazing.
and then the van, I should say, that pulled us out of the crowd, Stefan, the '89 Ford Aerostar Custom. I remember walking through the parking lot with Stefan, and he stopped and goes, "Is that an Aerostar?"
And it was.
Barrett-Jackson.
Indeed, it was.
I think we can probably say that is the first Aerostar ever to appear on the docket of Barrett-Jackson, and it might be quite some time before we see another.
Yep, $5,500.
It had a fantastic and fantastically dirty custom license plate as well.
It did. I'm not going to repeat what it said, but it was inappropriate, if nothing else.
What a shock on a custom van. The 79 Ford Mustang, the Fox Mustang for $5,720. There was a tan-colored notchback, a 2.3 turbo. Was this that car?
Yes, I believe it was tan color, and it was unrestored. It was
Yeah, it was like a 40,000-mile car, and it was a kind of a rare powertrain setup. I think it was like a 2.3-liter turbo with a manual transmission.
And from what I read, it came with every document you could ever want.
Yeah, for a car of that quality, again, that's a great price. If basically a flesh-colored notchback Fox Mustang with kind of an irreplaceable drivetrain is what you want.
But owning a tiny piece of Mustang history,
A tiny footnote in Mustang history.
but still, $5,700 for that few miles. Gosh,
That was a nice car. I mean, again, that was one that I took the time to really give a long, hard look at.
yeah. And the cheapest car, 1978 Mercedes-Benz. Who would have guessed Mercedes would be the cheapest car sold at Barrett-Jackson? $4,400 for a 450 SLC coupe.
Did anyone see that car?
I just saw the picture. I didn't see it in person.
I didn't see the car, but the SLC is the long wheelbase R107, and there are plenty of R107 convertibles there, as there were last year, and that might have been the only coupe. But the top doesn't go down. It's kind of a little bit ungainly with the stretching wheelbase.
Yeah.
But still, that's a cheap price for that car. I'd really sort of have to wonder about how nicely presented of a car that was to go for that.
Yeah, you've got the question of if it was actually nice, but
Because I mean, at $4,400 with the buyer's premium, it means that car hammered for under $4,000.
Yes.
It was lot number 1.1, which would help explain its
Really? So that's
price. There was no one in the room.
Was that like Sunday? When did they start auctioning the autos this year?
Tuesday, I think.
Tuesday, was it?
All right. Well, showing up soon at a classic car dealer near you at that point.
Yes. Yeah,
The
for twice
early
as much.
bird gets the Mercedes.
And
in this
I
case.
could probably name the potential candidates in terms of the dealers who snapped that up, but I won't.
Yeah. I like it. So keeping with this inexpensive and Scottsdale theme, one of the vehicles I was in the room for was a 1968 Chevy Sport Van 108 at Gooding,
At Gooding,
which was incredibly out of place.
it was unbelievably out of place. It had incredible history. It was an NHRA. It was a support van, right?
It was a support van,
Yeah.
American Hot Rod.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
probably-
Beeline Dragway.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah, so-
you know what? Look, let's face it. At Gooding, there are a lot of motorsport savvy people there, but it ain't drag racing.
No,
it's not.
It's a different type of race they're typically after.
Yeah.
Ones that last 24 hours and
Yeah,
cost
and
more
it
than
involved
$500.
turning either left or right. But
Yeah, either way.
but I mean, I saw that too. It was A, it was beautifully presented. B, there was a lot of interesting history there.
Absolutely.
Somebody got an absolute screaming deal on that, and
Yeah.
maybe that's a good segue into sort of what our favorite bargains were from the various auctions.
Yeah, and this one, just for note, and maybe I just realized this because my dad was a sign painter, and he did hand lettering. His father, my grandfather, did hand lettering. This sport van was completely logoed with hand-painted letters from the 70s, never changed.
It was
Preserved.
amazing, and it looked, everything about it looked legit. So somebody got a fantastic deal on
Hammered
that.
at 9.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You really actually have to be hammered not to
Yeah.
see that as the huge bargain that it was. And maybe it was a problem. Maybe there weren't enough hammered people actually in the
Right.
room at the time.
It was a
to
little
bid that up.
early in the terms of Scottsdale auctions.
Yeah, the
in
bidders
day.
bar hadn't gotten into full swing yet. But
Yeah. So, Robbie, do you have a pick for your favorite Scottsdale?
I do. The one
deal?
that I'm essentially kicking myself in the ass for not being in the room with the bidders palette for. It was at Russo and Steele. It was a 1974 Datsun 260Z.
Yeah.
Kind of the red-headed stepchild of the first generation Z car. But it was, first of all, it was a great color. It was a correct, this sort of bright lime metallic green. Really, really nice respray, good interior, factory air, which actually worked on those cars pretty well
Yeah.
because they essentially copied GM setup. And it was said to be cold factory air. Nice car. It hammered for 11 and some change with a buyer's premium. It was like 12.1. And this, if it were a 240, the fair market on that car would have been, maybe probably 18 to 20. And the secret of the 260 is that, if you toss out the flat top Hitachi carburetors and put an earlier set of carbs on, what you essentially have is a small bumper 240Z with 200 cc's more of displacement, a little more horsepower, and really good factory AC. So I wish that I had been in the room.
Yeah.
I would have been on the car.
And it was a good-looking car to see
Yeah.
out there. That green was vibrant.
Yeah, it really was, but vibrant in a period sense. That it was vibrant in the the 1974 sense. I probably could have lived without the choice of custom wheels, but that's part and parcel of pretty much every Z car purchase. I mean, you rarely see them on steel wheels and hubcaps, which is the way
Yeah.
they came.
Yeah. And Stefan, what did you have? What was your favorite?
It wasn't my favorite because these cars are not my favorites, but there was a $6,600 Avanti at Russo and Steele.
What?
There were two cheap Avantis there. There was one that sold for 17 and change. It was a supercharged car.
Wow.
And there was a 63. They were both 63s, but this one, $6,600. It was a 63 Avanti. And I spoke to my good friend Dave Kinney about this. He's an Avanti guy.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the bidder or the high bidder on both of them?
No, and he's despondent that he was not. It's a transition car, very late '63 car with round headlights and a wood grain dash and console. Not supercharged, but it had AC. Decent paint and decent interior. Definitely a driver. And I think some of the factors that might have made it such a cheap car were, one, it was the third car on Sunday morning.
Okay.
So everyone was hungover.
So it was a
no one was
great
there.
crowd.
Hungover in church, basically.
Yeah.
That's sort of opposite ends of the.
Begging for forgiveness.
Yeah.
It had wonky wheels and tires that are too big for the car that will need to be replaced.
Oh, I saw this car. It was turquoise, right?
Yes,
And
and it was titled as an AMC Avanti.
Yeah. Oh, well,
And
that doesn't present any issues.
It's not an AMC Avanti, and I think that might have thrown people who might, maybe there was someone who thought, is it a real car?
Is it a kit? Yeah.
No, a lot of
killing
it
an
was
Avanti?
just somebody saying, "Do I really want to go through the hassle at the DMV of trying to title this car correctly?"
Right.
But,
But,
that honestly might have been part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the low price on one of these in the Hagerty price guide for just a number 4 is just over 11 grand. So this was a half price car at worst, but I imagine that with a little cleanup, you could do really well on this if you wanted to resell it.
Coming
really
soon
well
to a dealer near you.
That's
but
right.
yeah, I mean those wheels were hideous. They were like these giant, 18-inch wheels, and the tires typically had no sidewall. They looked just ridiculous.
The
on
urban entrepreneur special.
More or less, but yeah, it was just. But that car had been on Craigslist in Phoenix for months and months before the sale, and trust me, I looked at it. But had I had any idea that it was going to sell for $6,600, I would have
crazy.
been there with Mr. Kinney,
That's right.
bidding against Mr. Kinney.
Right. Winning against Mr. Kinney. So finally, Rob, one of the reasons I wanted to get you here is we have an exciting new thing on our website and also on Bloomberg called the Market Rating. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. The questions that we get asked most often is because you're on the receiving end of them.
Right.
A lot of the time are, what's my car worth and what's the overall market doing? And obviously we have valuation tools that's been around for a while, and the Hagerty indexes that really sort of explain, what that individual car is worth, or what that sort of submarket or subgroup of cars is worth.
Yeah.
The Hagerty Market Rating is designed to answer the other burning question, which is, how's the market doing? Is it healthy? Is it sustainable? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it poised to burst? Like a bubble. And this basically answers that question on a 0 to 100 scale. 0 being the apocalypse, 100 being this impossible situation of hyper supply and hyper demand, where every car that hits the market sells the next day for double the asking price.
Right.
It's based on a bell curve, so you're never going to see the two poles, the 0 to 100. It is much harder to move from 70 to 80 than it is from 60 to 70. The further you get down it on the right-hand side, the closer you get to 100, the more things start to look overheated and sort of like a bubble. But a healthy range for a normal growing market is somewhere between 60 and 78 or 79 or something like that. Above that, into the 80s, we start looking very seriously at the possibility of a bubble. But there are a bunch of factors that go into it, everything from insured values, private sale transactions, and we're sitting on the largest database of those. It's the hardest data to come by in the collector car data world. Auction data, expert sentiment, price guide data, it all is distilled into a weighted algorithm that basically yields this 0 to 100 number. It updates once a month, roughly on the 15th of each month. We're going to update it on the 15th of February, and it's going to include all of the Barrett-Jackson data in it, or all the Scottsdale data.
Yeah.
My sense is it's probably going to go up because from a transactional standpoint, things look good for the most part. Prices were rational, not crazy.
Right.
And I think as a result of that, expert sentiment is probably going to go up. Is people are going to feel more, probably more bullish about the market and less worried about a bubble bursting anytime soon.
Yeah. And that's, it's going to be a really great gauge, and we are going to have it on Bloomberg, right?
Correct. The Bloomberg Financial Terminal, it's their subscription terminal. It's going to be the only measure of its kind, the only thing being reported by a major financial services institution that deals with the classic car market.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I know, Rob, you and I had joked a little bit about what kind of scenarios would be required to get to that zero spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the hypothesizing that maybe
Zero is like an electromagnetic pulse.
right. There is absolutely no worth even in scrap metal for these vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah, I had said Mad Max, but you said no, at least in that scenario, they're still driving cars.
People are still using them in some way.
Yeah, and I think we talked about, Walking Dead, that scenario, really what's the value of a 300 SL going in that particular situation where they're hard to get in and out of, and it may or may not start, and you've got to deal with the hordes of walkers who want to basically eat your face.
Right. Yeah. And and then the 100. The only way I could see us hitting 100 is if somehow the only way to survive on this planet is inside of a classic car.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. You will die without inhaling, old musty classic car smell is found to be the cure for cancer.
Yeah, that's really close to 100.
Yeah, that probably is. That's probably 98 or 99.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, it'll be interesting to watch this unfold. We do have on Hagerty's website, which is linked below. We've got a couple of links. One to the autofocus.ca article, and another one to the market rating. It'll be interesting to watch this unfold. We have some historic data with it. We're able to apply this algorithm to past data that we already had. And we're going to keep with it. And, it seems to be a really well-respected number so far.
So one thing we can tell you is that the number where it is right now, which is 70.22, it's an all-time high. And as you mentioned, we've been collecting the data and producing, even though we just introduced this, we're able to retrospectively calculate what the number would be for past points in time, and this is an all-time high.
Oh, excellent.
Rob, do you know where what the previous all-time high would have been?
I think the previous all-time high would have been, well, it was the number this one just replaced. It would have been December of this year, where it was just bubbling under 70, but if you want to go back to 2007, which was sort of the other peak of the market before the recession, I think it was probably around a 66 or a 67 then. So, we're better than that considerally at this point.
Stronger numbers, but still safe. Still
we're not
healthy.
getting, if you look at the actual graphic, it's sort of like a temperature gauge, and it starts to get into the yellow, as you approach 80, and we're still far from the yellow where we're saying, this is about to flame out spectacularly. That isn't to say there aren't parts of the market that are really superheated right now.
Yeah.
Lamborghini Countachs, Porsche air-cooled turbos,
Some
Bandit
Ferraris,
era, some Ferraris, Bandit era, Pontiac Trans Ams, those sorts of things. But the market as a whole, isn't represented by those few cars that are really super hot right now.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Stefan, Rob.
Thank you. And thank you, listener, wherever you are.
As always.
Listener singular.
Right, singular listener. As always, email.
Thanks, Mom.
We've got an email address now, Matt@Hagerty. That'll come to me. If you have questions or comments, we've got Twitter @Hagerty. And then also, right down in the comments section on YouTube. So, thank you very much. We're all set.
Until next week.
Yep.